here today with David Day, Chairman of the Board of Directors for 100 Black Men of Chicago. Welcome to the show.
Tia, thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you so much for being here. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, currently the Chairman of the Board of the 100 Black Men of Chicago. I'm involved with the Chicago chapter of the National Black MBA Association. On the Cook County Economic Development Advisory Council and the Cook County Small Business Subcommittee. None of those are paid jobs, so it's time well spent in the community. Prior to this, just recently, I left as the Chief Operations Officer for Reverend Jesse Jackson at the Rainbow Push Coalition. And then before that, Vice President at Chicago State University. But my corporate world, I was actually, this was a not-for-profit, I was actually the Chief Administrative Officer for the National Black MBA when it was located here in Chicago, and when it moved to Atlanta, I could not make that move. But in my corporate world as a regional director for Macy's, I had the sales side of 78 stores in 10 states, and then prior to Macy's, I was the general manager for the cable company in Chicago. At the time, it was AT&T, Broadband, and Comcast. So I've stayed busy.
Very busy. So long. How long has 100 Black Men of Chicago been in existence?
Well, the 100 Black Men of Chicago is an affiliate of the 100 Black Men of America, and 100 Black Men of America has over 110 chapters internationally. Our chapter was formed in November of 1994 and officially became incorporated in December of 1995. So we are celebrating our 30th anniversary this year.
And what is the mission and goal of the organization?
Well, we are mostly a mentoring organization, but we do have 4 pillars that we focus on. Mentoring is one, health and wellness, education, and economic development. We reach back into the community and we call it mentoring for a lifetime. So we mentor young, mostly African American males from grammar school through high school through college. We have had the good fortune of having a mentee that we started mentoring them in grammar school. They eventually became the president of the organization. So we make certain that we are connected with them through their lifetime as they go through their education in high school. If they decide to go to college, we make certain that we identify potential scholarships for them, first of all, and secondly, internships during the summer, and then after they graduate, internships. So it is a mission of looking back, going back, and giving back. And we have a number of members who belong to have so many backgrounds, from doctors, lawyers. We had a member who was the president of McDonald's one time. So it is, and we have plumbers and we have electricians too. So I think that it's a well-rounded organization. But our focus is helping young African American males navigate through life.
And why is it important to have organizations like 100 Black Men and 100 Black Men of Chicago?
I think that one of the things that we have found in our culture is we absolutely had to rely on each other as we came over here on boats, after we disembarked the boats, after we were spread out through the South, during slavery, after slavery, Jim Crow. So we had all of these situations as a people where we had to come together. But we've lost that to a certain degree, and that we say that there are 3 levels of relationships. The first level is dependency. A child is dependent on that parent for everything, for food, roof over the head, changing the diaper. The second level is independence. That's where every parent can't wait till their child gets. Go to the bathroom yourself, feed yourself, get a job, have a nice day. But the third level is called interdependency, where we can count on each other. In our community, we don't see Hispanics necessarily asking for loose change because they're busy cutting all of our grass. We don't see the Arab community asking for loose change in front of the gas stations because they own them all collectively. We don't see people from East India asking for loose change in front of Subway or Dunkin' Donuts because they own them all. But they come together as a community. So our mission is to get back to that interdependency where we can count on each other, where we can rely on each other, and we can trust each other. And it's important that we bring the young people up and making them aware of the challenges that they're going to have in their life. But at the same time, know that there are people who care about them and people who support them. A lot of our mentees don't necessarily have role models in the house. And so we have a motto that says they will be what they see.
How did you get involved with the organization?
I was started off when I was a general manager for the cable company in Chicago. I was a financial supporter. We were a corporate supporter of the organization, and at that time I was not a member. I left the cable industry and went to Macy's. And at the time, the vice president of Macy's, when I joined there, he was chairman of the board of the 100 Black Men of Chicago, and asked me to join the organization and to, bring my expertise and bring my my network in. And this was it's been about like 2022. I mean 2012 is when I joined. So I've been with the organization for some time now.
So you kind of talked about your background. How did all of those roles prepare you for owning your own general contracting and construction business?
Yeah, the business is a One Estate Directors, and actually my sister formed it. And when I grew up, I wanted to be my little sister. And she had been in real estate for many years. She was raised here, born here in Chicago, but moved to Detroit. My dad actually was a vice president for UAW, moved to Detroit, and in Detroit she got into the real estate business, subsequently moved to Atlanta, got into the real estate business, and moved back here to Chicago and brought the business with her. When she moved back, it was pre-COVID. And one of the things she realized was that at that time, Chicago was the number 2 Airbnb in the world. Only Paris had more Airbnbs, and as far as so she got into Airbnbs. When COVID hit, of course, no one was going into Airbnb, so she started buying real estate. She started buying buildings and actually purchased the buildings for veterans. But then saw that the buildings that she was purchasing needed to have repairs, and she said, well, why don't I just start a construction company? So she started the company, and I've been involved with her. Of course, I've had a job and working, but involved with her as we not only do construction, we also do real estate management. And we've done something about 2 years ago that we're trying to work our way through. We bought a farm in Kankakee County. We can spell corn, but we don't know how to grow it. But one of the things that we discovered is that Illinois is the second flattest state in the country. Only Florida is flatter, and that's because the bottom part of it is swampland. Illinois is the fastest growing state for solar farms. So we are looking at building, installing solar panels to feed back to the grid. The state has grants where you can have that work pay for it, and then it's connected to the grid, and you can supply electricity to the community. And this is down in the Pembroke area, and I found out about Pembroke when I was with Rainbow Push. They came to see Reverend Jackson because they didn't have gas. Everyone in Pembroke is a community of black farmers for over 100 years, where they farmed that land. but as years went by, the communities around them really started to prosper, but they did not. So they did not have gas. They had propane tanks. So I did not know about the community, so went down and did some work with the community and saw that there was opportunity to purchase land. So as a family, we purchased that land.
What is the one thing people should know about owning their own business?
The challenge, and I'll say this, is the most important thing people need to know. I'm going to say period. Finance. You can make $1 million, but if you spend $1 million, you're out of business. I tell young people who are going to college, if they're going to be a dentist, take finance courses. If you're going to be an attorney, take finance courses. If you're going to go into engineering, take finance courses. Because one of the things that we have not, as a community, been able to do is to pass fortunes down in our, so and we make our community really generates a lot of money, a lot. But there's only 3 things you can do with money: spend it, save it, and invest it. And if you don't understand the dynamics of investing and don't understand the dynamics of what money can do for you, then you kind of lose out. So when you start your own business, finance is extremely important, but also understanding when you start a business, well, what business are you going to start? And what's the competition in that area? And I think that I learned the concept of competition when I went from the communications industry to the retail industry. I actually, out of college, started at AT&T. I worked at a telephone company and then went into cable. But in the communications industry, kind of back, 80s, 90s, you either had this phone and that was it. Same thing with your cable company. But when I got to retail, one of the things that I realized that you had this thing called competition. And what you have to think about is, okay, I'm opening my store this Saturday. What differentiates my store from my competitor? What differentiates this Saturday? So you look at what your competitors are doing, and it has to be better than them to draw the customers there. But I learned another challenge. What you did this Saturday is not going to work next Saturday. You've got to do something different. So when you're going into a business, you have to ask yourself, why am I doing this? What is the purpose? Is it sustainable? Do I have some money to start the business? Do I have those things that I need as support? Do I have a good accountant? Do I have a good attorney? Do I have a financial institution that's willing to support me? And you establish those relationships, and when you give them your business plan, they say, oh yeah, I can see how this will succeed. So it's really critical that you do your homework and come prepared. I am on the Cook County Economic Development Advisory Council. And what we do is we have developers that come in front of us to say, we are developing this property. We're going to have a storage facility here. And what we do is we review their overview and their proposal to determine if they're going to get a tax break. It can be as much as 60% tax break for 10 years, but they need to bring the plan in front of us. And I've been on the Cook County Economic Development Advisory Council for about 6 years now. We do maybe 2 a month. We don't meet in November and December. So, kind of a quick math, 10 a year or more. In all that time, only 3 African Americans have come in front of us because they just weren't prepared. You just can't say, hey, I got an idea, there's a building over there, I'm going to do something with it. And so it's just really critical when you go into a business that you are prepared. One of the greatest things, and I guess even one of the most challenging things in the world today, is the internet. It is an unbelievable resource, but it can also be an unbelievable, a headache. But there's so much information that you can go and get after starting a business. Do you want to start a flower shop? Okay, it's a good business. But what is it going to cost? Where are you going to get the flowers from? So the critical thing, any business that anyone wants to go into, like I said, first finance. Take your finance courses, but do the research in the business and see if it's viable, because it has to be a passion. Because you're going to be working 7 days when you're on your own business. It's got to be a passion. The phone will be ringing at 5 a.m. The phone will be ringing at midnight. So it has to be a passion for you. But we as a family, one of the things that we learned is, and again, something my mother would always say, surround yourself with people who will sustain you and not people who will drain you. And that's good from a business perspective. That's good from a life perspective.
Where can people go to find out more about 100 Black Men of Chicago and Day One Estate Directors?
Well, both have websites. The 100 Black Men of Chicago, www.100bnc.org, and Day One, same thing, www.day1estate.org. With the 100 Black Men of Chicago, I think that when we look at the programs that we have each year we do a health and wellness fair. Under that pillar of health and wellness, where we have doctors who happen to be members of the organization. We have doctors who specialize in things what we call stop the bleed, where we teach young people to deal with wounds that they may come across in their lives. We also focus our health and wellness fair on men's health, and not just physical health, but mental health. At our last health and wellness fair, we had Danita Hathaway, who owns and who is the CEO of an organization that deals with men's mental health. Her dad was Donnie Hathaway, and great musician who just had some challenges from a mental perspective. And Black men, we have this thing about I got this. And a lot of times we don't share our feelings and share our thoughts because we look at that as a weakness. So our health and wellness fair is really critical. We also have one of the Midwest's largest college scholarship fairs. We've done that over 22 years, where we've had over 200, sometimes 300 colleges and universities, over 5,000 students who come each year. And over the last 30 years, we've gotten over $20 million in scholarships. Because we do something a little different with our college fair. We tell the universities to come prepared to accept students on the spot, or at least have a follow-up with them. We do the same thing with the students. Come with as if you're applying. Bring transcripts, bring resumes, bring bios, as if you are applying for schools. We have, that's usually on a Saturday, we've had it at the University of Illinois for the last 20 years. We also started about 15 years ago what we call the Honor Student Reception, which is held that Friday before the college fair, and it is only for 200 students. And when you apply for the Saturday, we look at the application and we look at your ACT, SAT, and your GPA. If it's at a certain level, we will send you an invitation to the Friday event. It's a private event. Only 200 students, and we have about 20 universities there from all different areas, whether it's the HBCUs, the state colleges, the Ivy League schools. That is a private college fair where parents can sit down with the recruiters. Usually about 80% of those students get scholarships that night. So the focus there is to make certain that we have this event open for the students. Well, we did a study, just recently did a study that out of 100 African American males, only 3 graduate out of college. So not all of our young people are college bound. So we met with the University of Illinois to potentially do what we called a Pathways to Prosperity. It's a internship and career exposure event for young people who are not college bound. A lot of times people don't realize that you don't need a 4-year degree to have a great career, and there's a difference between a career and a job. You do not need a 4-year scholarship, a 4-year degree to have a good career. An associate degree sometimes, or a certification. A lot of people don't realize to fly for United Airlines a 737, you do not need a college degree, just a commercial pilot license. But our young people don't know about that. Installing solar panels, doing maintenance on wind turbines, it's just a certification, and they make extremely good money. So we want to have something similar to the college fair where we invite different industries in to expose our young people to other opportunities other than college, because I think that we may have erroneously through the years told our young people, if you don't go to college, you're a failure. And we need to let them know that a journeyman electrician makes some good money. And one thing about electricity, it works the same way around the world. So you can take your talent anywhere. So that's our college fair, and we want to look at doing the intern and career exposure. We also do a holiday toy drive where we collect over 1,000 toys. I think this year we almost had 2,000 toys that we collect for homeless shelters, for churches, for community organizations, to provide to young people who are less fortunate. So the focus of the organization is to make certain that we're doing our part. Someone helped us. Whether it's a parent, whether it is a teacher, to keep us on the right track. And that is really our focus, to make certain that we are availing ourselves to help young people stay on the right track, because that young person is either going to be the person that shoots us and puts us in a hospital, or they're going to be the person that's going to be the doctor that's going to take care of us.
Very well said. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like our audience to know?
Well, I think for me, the important thing is, and I don't know what it was, it might have been a communist Mao Zedong saying, if you're not part of the cure, you're part of the problem. And a lot of our community, we have, I think, a lot of opinions, which is fine. We will be critical of our politicians, we'll be critical of our leaders, which is fine, I understand that. But I guess my question is, so, now tell me what you're doing again for the community. I didn't hear that part. Are you helping young people? Are you working with the community? Are you helping to clothe those people who are homeless? I mean, what again are you doing? Because I think that we spend a lot of time complaining and not realizing we are the answer to our problem, and we have to accept that. I teach a class called PRIDE. PRIDE stands for Personal Responsibility in Developing and Demanding Excellence. That the standards you set for yourself has to exceed the standards that others have for you. And that in life, you have to have a plan. You have to know who you are. You need a plan, but you also need faith. Faith without a plan is misguided. A plan without faith is useless. And those who have faith, an explanation is not necessary. Those who don't have faith, an explanation is not possible. And one of the things that you have to realize, or that I tell people, I have a son, fortunately, his senior year at U of I, he wants to be a neurosurgeon. Faith is critical, and a plan is critical, but you have to understand that you have to have faith in your plan. You have to have faith in yourself to execute your plan. You have to have faith in faith. But understand, faith doesn't make things easy. Faith makes things possible.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Remember to make plans to join us again next for Conversations with the Citizen, the place where real